I am beating every N64 game, and I mean all of them. The twist is, the next game I play is randomly selected, so I have no clue what's coming next. This is the journey to beating every N64 game. Game number 113, Knife Edge NoseGunner. Released in 1998, this game was developed and published by Kemco. Kemco, that sounds familiar. Alright, they did Top Gear Rally, one of the first games I covered in this challenge. Well, I've certainly never heard of this game. Seems like there's been a lot of that recently. Well, NoseGunner makes me think this will be a shooter of some kind. I don't know, I have basically zero info going in, so let's find out what this one is together. If you sit at the title screen long enough, it'll give a lore dump on the game's backstory. Good luck reading it though, because it scrolls way too fast. Essentially, the people of Earth had figured out how to properly terraform Mars, and the colonization of it was in full effect. People were moving to Mars like crazy, but then that was cut short. Earth received an ominous message that some unknown force was destroying all the Martian colonies. Possibly all the terraforming stuff awakened an ancient alien race. We are the weapons system commander of the Knife Edge experimental assault aircraft, so we need to destroy the enemy with an arsenal of awesome firepower. The craft utilizes a remote flight system, which means it'll fly on autopilot. We are only in control of the guns. The main single-player mode in this game is the story, so that's what we'll be doing to beat this game. It just popped up saying Stage 1, Amethyst Ravine. Then it had an interesting thing where it wanted me to pick my path. The first level had 9 I could choose from, and it's basically how you'll proceed through a level. They did this to give the game some level of replayability. Then you get a bit of dialogue between us and the command center. I guess our character's name is Samson. They reiterate that they will fly the craft from HQ and we're just in control of the guns. And then it gets into the gameplay. So it's an on-rails shooter where it moves through a set path automatically. You aim and shoot. You move the crosshair with the joystick and you just kind of spam this machine gun that has infinite ammo. Sometimes you see these prism things you can shoot to level up your weapon, give you more health, or just give you more points. I could tell this game was a localized Japanese title because it pops up saying, "You have scored 10,000 points." Pretty early on into the first level, I ran into a mini-boss. There will be at least one of these in each level, which is always appreciated. The first guy just kind of flies around the screen chaotically and doesn't really pose much of a threat. Now, I know what a lot of you are probably thinking. Oh man, does this game have light gun support? Unfortunately, it does not. There actually never was a light gun created for the N64, although with some quick googling, it does seem there was supposed to be one. I'm not sure why it never came to be, but it doesn't bother me too much. I don't play these games on a CRT television, so I wouldn't really be able to utilize it anyway. It definitely would be nice to have the option to do it though. One good thing the game does is offer up to 4-player multiplayer. Essentially, there will just be a bunch of other crosshairs on the screen and you play through the levels together. I don't have any footage of it because who the heck has friends these days? I feel like multiplayer would make this a lot more fun though. Anyway, back to the game. The command center popped up saying I'd run into the alien ship that killed Armstrong, whoever that is. This first boss was a big robot like a segmented scorpion tail thing. You might notice in the bottom right corner it says S-bomb. These are your special attacks, and the yellow meter fills up as you kill more enemies. I tried using them here, but it didn't really do much of anything. Weird. After destroying the entire tail, it transitioned into phase 2, which took like 57 years to finish. Oh my god, so long to wait. Finally, I could actually fight again. There was a weak point in the center of the ship where I could shoot it. It shot these blue energy bursts at me, and I avoided them by just shooting them. It also fires a laser beam from the center, which brings me to another mechanic of the game. While you don't pilot the ship yourself, you can slightly nudge it in different directions using the C buttons, kind of like leaning over in a shooter. This lets you dodge attacks that can't be destroyed by shooting them. After taking its health all the way down, the boss died in an incredibly aggressive explosion. It shows a basic stats screen when you finish, and that's it. Now on to stage 2, which is called Dead City. We get some lore that we're heading into a destroyed Martian colony. There may be survivors, but we should mostly expect hostile enemies. This stage is quite a jump in environment. We're in the middle of a big city. I was surprised to see that the lights were on in many of the rooms of these skyscrapers. These guys are workaholics, man, working during an alien invasion. A bit of the way into the city and there was this giant tank driving down the street. I was super disappointed to learn shooting the bowling pin didn't knock it down to kill the tank. That would have been a cool secret. The tank drives itself over to a football field, then it's ready to fight. This is such a weird arena to be fighting a mini-boss. It has this red eye that you shoot as its weak point, while the boss spawns missiles, mines, and random enemies to hurt you. You know, if these guys at HQ would stop moving around so much, I might be able to kill this thing faster. After I did destroy it, I got some dialogue saying we got a distress beacon, and we determined it's coming from an archaeological research facility. Guess that's where we're heading next. Now I'm at a flooded section of the city somehow. Feels weird that only some of it flooded. There's all these fish-like enemies jumping out of the water. That means trouble. I reached the research facility and there's some woman in a lab coat yelling for help. In the most amazing cutscene ever, we rescue her by shooting out the glass, then having her leap to the aircraft. Well, you know, just think of it like a book or something. You gotta leave the cutscene up to your imagination. This led to the next boss of the game. It looks way cooler than it actually is. It's this white pentagon with 5 spike things on each end. Every so often, the spikes would launch a blue energy ball at me, which I could shoot to avoid. I just had to shoot all the spikes to destroy them, then it moved into phase 2. It turned into this round satellite-like thing with guns all over it. You'd think this thing would have crazy bullet patterns that are all tough to dodge, but nah. It only shoots out of one gun at a time, and it rarely even does it. Plus, its health is really low. It just took a few shots to the center, and level 2 was down. Quite a disappointment. We get some dialogue that we rescued an archaeologist named Dr. Lynx. We send her off to Medivac, and then it's on to stage 3, Crimson Lake. We get a bit more dialogue that this is one of the first colonies on Mars, and there may be survivors here. This one starts off with a super freaky face that's for some reason where these people decided to settle. It's an odd choice, but you know what? I respect it. I'll take this time to talk about the graphics and music. The graphics were pretty average, I'd say. Nothing too special, and the game runs at a stable frame rate, which is always nice on this console. The music's pretty cool, well, at least when you can hear it. Since you're constantly shooting, the machine gun kind of overpowers the music most of the time. It's like fast-paced, futuristic music, kind of a techno vibe, but I don't really know what genre it is. I kinda like it. So, after flying through the creepy ruins, we found a downed aircraft, but no one was left alive from the crash. The remote fly squad led me into what seemed to be an active volcano. There's just lava everywhere, and it's time for a mini-boss. Whoever's controlling the craft at this part is just out of control. They fly way too fast. We're fighting against this big flying thing that looks like some scorpion tank from Halo. It has so much HP and it's very unlikely to damage you. So essentially this is just a boring, drawn-out battle. After shooting 64 trillion times, it blew up and I was on my way. A bit further in now, I ran into a castle. Actually, the dialogue says it's the remnants of the colony that was here, but the aliens have transformed it into a fortress. I just had to fly around and shoot the turrets for about a minute, then the fortress lifted into the sky and began unfolding. It's like an origami castle. There were these 2 blue crystals that I destroyed, then the fort exploded. But that was just the beginning. Now there was a tiny yellow crystal in the center and the blue one spawning periodically. They all shoot energy balls at you and they can be tough to hit. I haven't mentioned it yet, but you can't adjust the look sensitivity in this game. It's unfortunate because it's just way too sensitive the way they have it. I had my first death at this boss and it revealed a pretty big problem for me. While you do have infinite continues, it takes you all the way to the beginning of a level when you die. Most likely you died to the final boss, so you're going to be repeating the entire level over and over again when you die. Not only that, but those power-ups that leveled up the gun are now gone. It maxes out at level 6, and going back to level 1 just feels horrible. Go from being Rambo to being Yosemite Sam. Thankfully, I killed the boss on my next try, and that was the end of level 3. We're flown into a cave behind the fortress, and this led to some ruins in the polar region where one of our aircrafts didn't respond for requests for communication. On to stage 4, Cold Vengeance. Samson gets super mad out of nowhere and he's just like, I'm gonna kick his ugly alien butt. Wait, whose butt? Alien didn't mention any individual alien. As you might expect, we're in an icy arena for this level. A lot of the enemies look like they're supposed to be robot snowflakes, I think. There's this guy on the ground that hurls huge ice blocks at you, but you can move out of the way pretty easily. Actually, this thing ended up being the mini-boss of the level. The way it moves around reminds me of those Boston Dynamics robot videos. Those things are so freaky. And so is this fight, because I got owned and died. At least it wasn't all the way back like at the end boss. This time I used one of my S-bombs and it killed him in a single hit. Wow. I don't know if that's a bug or what, because those things aren't near that good on the other bosses. It didn't matter though, because I immediately died after. Beyond this though was a massive pyramid, which we're going to somehow fly around inside using our gigantic plane. No idea how we fit in here. The devs waited until level 4 to finally force you to learn how to move the aircraft with the C buttons. This hallway has these pillars that'll damage you heavily if you don't move out of the way. At the end of the hall, I was in an open chamber with a big sphinx. I think 23% health should be enough, right? It launches missiles and energy blasts, which is fine enough. The tough part is when it slams its paws down, which can either cause an earthquake type effect sending the ground up towards you, or sending blocks from the wall behind flying at you. Yeah, I got obliterated here. The game was definitely starting to get a bit harder. Honestly, the strat here was just hopefully get lucky with shield pickups before the boss. Then I can face tank the harder to dodge attacks. With this luck, I won on the second try. We get some dialogue that we saved the day and we're gonna head back to Earth. Dr. Lynx invites us over to dinner. Aw snap, Samson's got himself a date. But then the commander is the most tone-deaf guy ever and is like, hey, you mind if I join you guys? Wow, not cool, man. Then we get this sort of cutscene in outer space. I presume we're speaking with Dr. Lynx. The space station she's at was invaded by aliens, and we've lost all contact with the commander. You're just thrown into the next level. They didn't name it or let you pick any path. Hey, if we lost contact with HQ, how is this thing flying now? Well, whatever. Thankfully, the enemies all drop power-ups, so you can easily get up to level 6 before what's ahead. In the shortest level of all time, this big alien spacecraft is guarding the entrance, and it's already time for the boss. I just had to destroy the 4 appendages protruding from it, and it died like right away. Luckily, this was programmed as its own level, so you don't have to repeat that if you die later on. Inside the space station is a narrow hallway that reminds me of going to fight Andross in Star Fox. Can't wait till I play that one. There's not too much going on in this one other than these giant enemies that just kind of sit there and soak up your shots. There's not that many of them, and they're the only hope you have of getting power-up drops. Out of nowhere, I got attacked by these gold rings too. Not sure if that's another similarity to Star Fox, or maybe it's Sonic. Or maybe they're just Funyuns. Finally, I made it into a dark cave where the final boss was waiting. Well, actually, it's a mini-boss. It's this gross white worm thing with 4 dark blue eyes. Kinda looks like the Eye of Ender from Minecraft. This boss sure is something. You can only damage it when it opens its mouth. After shooting it, it'll recoil, then lash out at you, dealing huge damage. Plus, the entire time it's launching these spitballs at you. I ended up dying just before killing it. Little did I know, this was very bad. When I spawned in, I was in a completely different area. It's like they had those paths built into this final level, but you don't get to pick. It just spawns you in a random one if you die. This is unfortunate because some of the paths have way more power-up drops than others. This was the only boss fight where you can't dodge any of its attacks by shooting them as well. The only way to dodge it is moving out of the way. The one where it lunges at you is just so unclear as to how to dodge though. I never got good at it. I did end up killing it on the 3rd try, but unlucky, that's only halfway. You go through more of the spaceship until you reach a place with a bunch of thermal vents. I don't know, maybe this is the engine room or something? It ends in this black void area. Somehow, Dr. Lynx knows that whatever is ahead, we can stop it by killing the core. It's just like this floating blob thing. I don't know what the heck it's supposed to be. It doesn't even have a health bar. After a while, it flies away towards this huge monster. So this is the final boss of the game. It has one big arm it swings at you, and you can destroy it by shooting it enough. However, the boss doesn't take any damage if you do this. It's kind of pointless to do because the boss grows it back in like 2 seconds. What is the point when it takes like 20 seconds to destroy it and 2 to grow it back? Shooting the other arm when it opens up is the only way to deal damage. It has a bunch of attacks where it tries to like headbutt you or whack you with the big arm. These are all frustrating to dodge because it's not that clear which direction you have to go, not to mention the timing. I got absolutely wrecked, and well, it was back to the start of the level for me. I had to fight the worm again as well. I died so many times at this boss, man. It doesn't help that it takes way too long to get back and have another try, like a Dark Souls run back on steroids. The main thing I was struggling with was dodging the big arm when it swings at me, but I was also taking a lot of chip damage from the projectiles throughout. Finally, after like an hour and a half, I had a good run. I actually got the dodge correct on the big arm attack, and I knew this was my chance. Thankfully, I didn't choke it away, and that was it. Good riddance. I hated fighting that thing. It dies in the biggest explosion yet, and then we get some final dialogue to wrap up the amazing storyline of the game. Dr. Lynx is like, "Yay, you're the hero, oh my god." Then she says, "Hey, remember how I asked you to dinner before this? You still want to come?" And Samson's like, "Yeah, I'll go, but only on one condition. You and me do some serious sun tanning in Miami." I couldn't have said it better myself. What a way to end it. You get an epilogue about how humans' exploration of space is still in its infancy, and the hostile alien encounters has only just begun. Probably setting themselves up for a sequel, but don't get your hopes up. Apparently, Dr. Lynx captured some of the aliens and tried to enslave them, but it didn't work out because they were too advanced. Yep, sounds about right for humanity. Finally, it just says "the end," and it doesn't even roll the credits. What the heck? Well, still, game complete. So yeah, there you have it, my journey to beating Knife Edge NoseGunner. I had no idea what to expect going in, and well, it was kind of alright. I think they would have had more success just making this an arcade game like Area 51 or Time Crisis. It just seems hard to succeed on a console with a game like this. The N64 certainly doesn't do it any favors either. When you compare this to Sin and Punishment, this game's quite bad. But in comparison to the entire N64 library, it's about in the middle. The music was nice, and the gameplay's a bit enjoyable, it's just a bit repetitive. I thought the final boss was way too punishing, but that's just me. I'm sure it's a bit more fun in multiplayer, but this won't make anyone's hidden gem list. I gave it a 5 out of 10 for enjoyability and an 8 out of 10 for difficulty. Mostly because of how long it takes to get back to the final boss if you die. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Have a sneak peek at the next game. There's 277 left on the list. 3, 2, 1, go. 188. What's that? Oh no. I mean, I'm sure some of you want to see this, but we are playing Pokemon League Puzzle Pokemon. I don't know what game this is. All right. It has been decided. But yeah, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. It helps the channel a lot. And if you like this series, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one.